Today's vid, we're talking about the G-spot. Sorry, green spot, obviously. This is a whiskey show. Let's drink some whiskey. Welcome to Whiskey and Whiskey. I'm the Whiskey Chaser Brian, and welcome to Christy's Bar in the heart of Kilkenny City. On this show, I compare and drink whiskey and basically give you my thoughts on the whiskey in question on the day. Today, a comparison and something a little different than what I normally do. I'm going to be comparing three very different and very wonderful green spot whiskeys. These are the core range green spot Irish whiskeys from Mitchell & Son. So by now, I'm pretty sure that you would have heard of green spot Irish whiskey, and if you haven't, well then, here they are. I'm not going to get into the history of green spot and Mitchell & Son. I've already gone heavily into that in my video I did a while back on blue spot Irish whiskey. I can leave a card up above if you'd like. You can go and check out that video. It gives a really good in-depth history on the brand. Green spot, as with all of the spot range, is produced in Middleton, County Cork and is a product of Irish distillers. Mitchell & Son, which are the original producers of the spot range, basically own the rights to the brand and still are involved in some aspects of the whiskey side of the business. Mitchell & Son are whiskey merchants that used to take empty wine casks and go to John Jameson's distillery and refill the cask with good old trustworthy Jameson Irish whiskey. This would then be left to mature in their own bonded warehouses and eventually bottled. So these are pot still Irish whiskeys, and pot still whiskey is a whiskey that's distilled in Ireland using copper pots with a mash bill including a mixture of malted and unmalted barley and a small percentage of other cereals. Pot still whiskey originated as a result of a malt tax in the 1700s. There are varying time frames over this. Again, I've already covered this in the blue spot video, and an interesting fact, according to my research, green spot Irish whiskey is the only merchant whiskey in Ireland that has always remained in production from when it first began in the early 1900s. Originally called Pat whiskey upon its initial release, and then in 1933 J&J Sun Green Seal. This used to be an age statement whiskey of 10 years. Nowadays, it's a vatting of pot still whiskeys between 7 to 10 years of age, which are finished in a mixture of new bourbon, refill bourbon, and sherry casks. The other two whiskeys you see here, you may or may not be familiar with. They are, of course, green spot whiskeys, except this is called the Leovil Barton edition, and it's finished for between 12 to 24 months in oaken Bordeaux wine casks from the Irish-owned Chateau Leovil Barton, while the Chateau Montenella is finished for 12 months in French oak Zinfandel wine cask from Chateau Montenella in the Napa Valley. Besides the differences in finishes between the original and the others, there is an also slight change or difference in ABV. The original green spot is 40% ABV, while the Barton and the Montenella are actually 46% ABV, which will undoubtedly give you a little bit more flavor. Mix that with the different finishes and you're going to get one hell of a flavor experience, or drinking experience, or whiskey drinking experience. So I'm going to break it down and summarize what we have. Green spot, 40% ABV, non-age statement, finished in new and refill bourbon and sherry. Chateau Leovil Barton, 46% ABV, non-age statement, finished in new and refill bourbon and sherry with a further 12 to 24 months in Bordeaux wine casks. Chateau Montenella, 46% ABV, non-age statement, finished in new refill bourbon and sherry with a further 12 months in French oak Zinfandel. Generally speaking, you'll find these whiskeys in or around the 55 to 70 euro bracket. Can fluctuate and they can be on sale from time to time. Okay, so now we're going to break down each individually and do our nosing and our tasting with it. Starting off, our green spot original. This is 100% pure pot still Irish whiskey, which I only read today and kind of found out it's made in limited quantities. It's not something that I was aware of before I started doing the research for this video, but because I like to repeat myself and I do it so well, once again, this is new and refilled bourbon and sherry casks, 40% ABV, 55 to 60 euro. Let's get it on the nose and then we'll try it and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Okay, so on the nose straight away, you're getting the orchard fruits. Like I get a real bang of apple off it. Even, funnily enough, a slight hint of banana. Really fresh, really vibrant. There's a hint of spice in behind it as well. Little bit of vanilla. You're gonna get some barley and definitely, definitely get some barley. The spice is quite light, very light. Give it a stir up there. It doesn't seem to be changing that much still. Yeah, it's just orchard fruits, apples, hint of spice, vanilla, honey, barley. Let's get in the palate. Sláinte. Oily, but light. Very juicy, orchard fruits, a little bit of oak, a touch of barley, lovely sweet, even a hint of, let's say, clove in it. Apples and pears even a little bit more peary on the palate. The finish is kind of oily as well, nicely barley, woody, juicy. It is one of the best pot stills you could arguably say, I suppose, if you're into green spot, which a lot of people are. Yeah, fantastic. Right, so we're gonna move on to the Chateau Leovil Barton, which was released in 2015, and it was a winner of the world's best single pot still whiskey in the 2016 World Whiskey Awards. So an interesting fact, this is the first ever single pot still Irish whiskey to be finished in Bordeaux casks. The choice of Bordeaux wine is also very significant. Chateau Leovil Barton is not only a highly regarded Grand Cru Chateau, but one that takes its name from the Irish wine geese. Winemaker Thomas Barton, who was actually an Irishman who left Ireland at the age of 27, and he grew up in Curragmore, County Fermanagh. Interesting fact, Leovil Barton is still run by his descendants today, and this bottling represents a celebration of shared Irish heritage and comes in at about €70. Okay, so on the nose, this is a different animal already. This, all of a sudden, straight away, it's more woody and more floral, a lot more floral, actually. The kind of fruits note is behind that, and it's more of a berry sweetness on the nose, even a touch of kind of caramel. It's a deeper and darker fruits definitely on the nose with a touch of barley. You're getting also in the background a little bit more of a wine note than you would have obviously with the original green spot. So yeah, beautiful nose to it. One of, if I'm honest, one of my favorite noses of pot still whiskey, and that's a bold statement. Let's get it on the palate. Sláinte. Bursting with vibrancy, oak, more vanilla, way more vanilla based, and of course those berry notes are coming through as well. It's a bit heavier on the palate, a bit oilier than the original, kind of denser on the palate. And it's the spice this time is a little bit more of a kind of cinnamony spice. It's a little bit drier than the green spot as well, the original green spot, but those berries and the vanilla, that is gorgeous. Yeah, much more vanilla, the berry notes, cinnamon spice, not overly spicy as well for a pot still whiskey, which is nice for people that are getting into pot still whiskey. Absolute belter of a whiskey for 70, or for in around 70 quid. One more, we'll finish it off actually. Lovely, long, lush vanilla finish to it. Berries are kind of there, that sweetness, that kind of salivating sweetness in your palate. The spice kind of dies out nicely, still at the back. Just that touch drier than would say the green spot original is, but still a completely different animal when you put it up against the original green spot. Beautiful. The Chateau Montenella was released in 2017. It's the second edition of the Wine Geese series, following on obviously from the Leo Barton, which was released in 2015. This combines the efforts of the Middleton Distillery, Mitchells & Sons, and the Napa-based Chateau Montenella winery. I think I said Montenella before, actually. I have a terrible habit of calling it that. It's Montenella. It's like something you start out calling it like that and forever it sticks in your head. I used to call it Montenella. This series is actually really about collaborations between, say, international wineries of Irish heritage and obviously green spot Irish whiskey. So the connection between Ireland and Chateau Montenella dates back to 1972 when Jim Barrett, son of Waterford immigrant John Barrett, reintroduced life to the then struggling winery. Jim's son, Bo Barrett, is at the helm of this Napa winery, which still upholds the high standards set by his forebears. Price is about €70. Again, same price as the Leovil. Alrighty, on the nose. More of the wine note is coming through now on this nose, and still going back to the apples and pears. Nice bit more spice than the Leovil Barton and the original green spot. Yeah, definitely the apples and pears are coming through a lot more than the Leovil Barton. You're kind of going back nearly to the original green spot with that. It's definitely more spicier, definitely a bit more barley, and that hint of oak is coming through that. There's even a kind of pop of ginger, a very slight pop of ginger at the end. There's another kind of candied note, or smells like a candy note. I can't quite put my finger on it. Ooh, it's quite a pleasant candy note. I'm not sure what it is though. That has me stumped. All right, into the palate, Sláinte. straight away. More oak, more spice, more aggressive than the others with the flavors. The wine notes are still very much there. Still very sweet, but dry and definitely more spicy. More of the fruit sweetness and a woody character to that on the palate. Interesting, I wasn't expecting that. That dryness is definitely more in your face than the Leovil or the original Green Spot. Finish, lovely and long, lovely and spicy. A little bit of bitterness from the wine note, and you know, the spice is still very much there. Oily, it's different, but it's different in a good way. I mean, there's not much more to say. They're fantastic, three fantastic, outstanding, wonderful whiskeys. So if you enjoyed any of those notes and you found you got the same, or you just like the whiskey and the info I gave you, how about throwing me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little notifications bell thingy. Thank you. So there you have it. Very interesting to line the three variations up like that side by side. I've never done that myself, and to see the different characteristics really is an eye-opener for me. For years, I've always preferred the Leovil Barton because of its sweetness, its sweet fruits and rounded berries flavors. But it's interesting to see it with the Montenella. They do have their place, and I wouldn't say one was certainly better than the other, but the Montenella has that real robust oakiness to it that would appeal to a lot of actual, you know, whiskey enthusiasts and drinkers. For me though, I don't think you can beat that Leovil Barton. It's iconic at this stage, and if you do get the chance, I would recommend trying each, or you know, all if you could, and see which one you prefer. If you have tried them, then leave a comment down below and tell me which one you actually preferred. With that in mind, I'm going to finish up. Thanks again to the lads in Christy's here for hooking me up today, and I hope you enjoyed this little comparison that I got to do, showcasing one of the best pot still whiskies to come out of Ireland. I will catch you all on the next show and the next video on the next day. Until then, stay safe. Sláinte.